I brought my elderly neighbor groceries every week. This morning, I found a fence built across my window, blocking my driveway, with a permit in her son's name. "You've had your turn," she said, not meeting my eyes. That weekend, I uncovered a deed error they thought was forgotten. And when I filed the claim, I bought my house in Columbia, Missouri about 8 years ago. It's a quiet neighborhood, mostly older folks, mostly one-story homes, and not a lot of noise. I picked this place because I needed peace. After my divorce, I just wanted somewhere to start over. My daughter was still in high school then, and even though she mostly stayed with her mom, I was trying to keep things steady for when she came around. The house was a little rough when I got it. Paint peeling, loose gutters, an old chain-link fence that leaned too far to one side. But it was mine. I didn't get help buying it, no co-signer, no spouse. Just me. Next door lived a woman named Florence. White hair, soft voice, always wore these long cardigans even in summer. She reminded me of my grandmother, so when she asked for help with something the first week I moved in, I didn't think twice. I fixed her porch light. Then it was her trash cans. Then picking up groceries. Before long, I was doing it every Saturday. She started calling me her angel. Told me I reminded her of her late husband. I never knew what to say to that, so I just smiled and kept bringing her eggs and milk and the cookies she liked. Sometimes she'd sit and talk while I put things away. She'd ask how my daughter was, how work was going. It wasn't deep, but it was familiar. So when I walked out last Tuesday morning and saw a fence being built across my driveway, I honestly thought it was a mistake. It wasn't. I saw 3 guys drilling heavy wooden panels into the narrow space between our houses. It wasn't just a normal property fence. It curved across my side yard, then angled sharply right in front of my bedroom window and halfway across my driveway. I was still in my pajama pants. "Hey!" I yelled. "What is this?" They stopped drilling. One guy looked up and said, "You gotta talk to the homeowner. We got a permit." I walked next door. Knocked. No answer. Then the door opened. Just a crack. It was Florence. She looked tired. She looked different. "You've had your turn," she said. Her eyes didn't meet mine. And then she shut the door. No explanation. I just stood there for a minute, staring at the fence. It was already halfway done. They were building fast. I went to work late that day, still confused. I called the city to ask about the permit. They confirmed it was under Donnie's name, Florence's son. Said it was approved last month. Now, Donnie's always been a little off. Shows up maybe once a month. Big pickup, loud music, always walking around like he owns the place. I've seen him argue with Florence a couple of times, but mostly he just comes to take things out of her garage or mess around in her backyard. Something about this felt off. So I went home, found my original deed paperwork, and started looking through everything. And that's when I remembered what my realtor said years ago. Something about a lot line correction between my property and Florence's back in the early 80s. She said it was fixed long ago and wouldn't affect anything. But what if Donnie filed using the wrong version? That weekend, I drove down to the Boone County Recorder's office. I asked to see the parcel history for both my property and Florence's. A clerk helped me find the documents. It turns out Donnie had submitted an old parcel map, the one before the correction. And the city had approved the permit based on that. The fence was being built about 6 feet onto my land, right across my window, right into my driveway. That Monday, I filed a formal dispute. I attached copies of the corrected deeds, maps, and even a letter from the previous owner who confirmed the old mix-up and when it got fixed. I sent photos of the fence location. I flagged the false permit application. I don't know if Florence knew what Donnie was doing. Maybe she did. Maybe she didn't. But when she said, "You've had your turn," something about it felt rehearsed. Like she'd been waiting to say it. And now I can't stop thinking about how someone I helped every week for years could stand there and pretend I didn't matter. The following week, everything got quiet. Too quiet. No hammering, no workers. The fence sat there unfinished, still cutting across my driveway like a scar. I figured maybe the city told them to pause while they looked into the dispute. I called to check, but all I got was, "It's under review." Then, on Thursday morning, I found a notice taped to my door. Intent to enforce property boundaries. It was typed up by some lawyer in town, representing Florence. Technically, representing Donnie, his name was on it. They claimed I was the one encroaching, that the corrected deed was in dispute and currently being evaluated. They wanted me to remove my shed, which has been on the same slab since I bought the place. I stood there on my porch, holding the paper, and just laughed. I'd spent 7 years buying groceries for this woman, shoveling her steps, hauling her trash. Once, I even drove her to urgent care when she got dizzy and Donnie wasn't answering. I never asked for anything. Now they were trying to take my driveway. I called the lawyer listed on the letter, asked him flat out, "Do you actually believe this fence belongs on your client's property?" He hesitated. Then he said, "We're simply asserting long-standing property lines." Long-standing my ass. I got a surveyor out 2 days later. Paid out of pocket. He marked everything, sprayed lines, printed a fresh map. Everything confirmed I was right. The fence was cutting 6 feet into my yard. I sent the report to the city. Sent it to Donnie's lawyer. Nothing changed. Then Donnie started showing up more often. Loud truck.
Doorslamming.
Walking around like a damn landlord. Once, I caught him staring at my front door like he was thinking about knocking, but he didn't. Just smirked and walked back. Another time I came home, and the surveyor flags were gone. Just vanished. So I put them back. In metal stakes this time. I also installed a cheap trail cam pointing at the fence. 3 nights later, 2:46 a.m., I got the footage. Donnie creeping around my yard, yanking up the markers. Looking around like he thought nobody'd see him. I saved the footage.
Sent it to the city.
To the lawyer. And filed a police report. That must have shaken them, because a few days after that, Florence came to my door. She didn't look like herself. Her voice was softer. Tired. "I never wanted this," she said. "I just thought maybe it was our time to have a little more space." I wanted to scream, but I didn't. "You had space," I said. "You had a neighbor who gave a damn." She looked down. Didn't say anything else. Just walked back across that line like it was a battlefield. I've stopped doing her groceries. I've stopped speaking. Now it's just me, waiting. Watching that fence, half-built, casting a shadow over my window. And thinking about what I'll do next. Because I'm not done yet. 2 weeks passed. The city finally responded to my boundary dispute, kind of. They said they'd scheduled a hearing to evaluate conflicting documents and claims. They wanted both parties present. I marked the date. July 18th, 9 a.m. It felt like it was miles away. Meanwhile, nothing about the fence changed. Still sitting there. Still blocking part of my driveway. But then something else happened. One morning, I came outside and found tire tracks across my yard. Deep ones, like someone had driven right across the grass between our houses. At first, I thought it might have been kids or a delivery truck turning around, until I saw the crushed plastic of one of the metal survey stakes, broken right in half. That afternoon, I checked my trail cam. It was Donnie. He'd pulled his truck halfway up onto my lawn and spun his tires around like he was trying to erase the survey lines from the ground itself. I called the police again. They took another report. Still wouldn't charge him with anything beyond possible property damage. I sent everything to the lawyer, to the city. Still no answer. And then he escalated. One night, I heard this weird tapping on my side window. I looked out and saw something hanging from the fence. When I stepped outside, it was a bag of groceries. Old bananas, a broken box of cereal, and a half-gallon of spoiled milk. All shoved into a torn grocery bag, tied to the fence post on my side. There was a note inside. "You always liked doing this, didn't you?"
No signature.
But I knew exactly who it was from. I didn't even take the bag down. I left it there. Let the heat rot it. Then I called my own lawyer. I hadn't wanted to. I didn't want this to be about courtrooms and money. But it already was. And the second I let these people think I was the kind of person who'd back off quietly, it'd be over. We filed a civil claim to have the fence removed, damages covered, and a cease and desist order against Donnie. But here's where it twisted even deeper. While digging through more records with my attorney, we found something buried in a 1983 zoning file. A handwritten note in the margin of a scanned plat map, likely from some long-retired clerk. It read, "Temporary easement granted for access during driveway construction expires after 6 months." That easement? It was attached to Florence's property, not mine. It gave her husband, decades ago, the right to use the strip between the houses for construction. It was never meant to be theirs, never permanent. But Donnie must have found that and twisted it, banking on the city not noticing the expiration clause. The city didn't notice until now. We added that to the claim. My lawyer said it strengthened my case tenfold. But then, Florence had a fall. I don't know if it was real or not. She was taken to the hospital. Donnie came by the next day and started shouting loud enough for the whole street to hear. "She's sick because of all this stress. You think she's got forever left?"
Huh.
He shouted right at my house. I didn't answer, but I did save the audio from my doorbell cam. The city hearing is still 2 weeks away. But I'm ready. They thought I'd forget. They thought I'd roll over. They have no idea who they're dealing with. 1 week before the hearing, I got a knock on my door at 6:30 in the morning. Not Florence. Not Donnie. It was a woman in her mid-30s, business clothes, holding a folder. "Are you Mr. Reeves?" she asked. I nodded. "I represent Missouri State Title and Survey. We're conducting a quiet title investigation regarding your property and 312 West Bartlett next door." I blinked. "Why?" She paused. "Because someone just filed a petition for adverse possession." I swear my mouth went dry. They were trying to take part of my land, legally, by claiming they'd used it long enough to own it. I asked to see the petition. She handed me a copy from her folder. And there it was, Donnie's signature. He claimed his family had maintained and used the disputed strip of land openly, continuously, and exclusively for over 15 years. It was a lie. I had photos from 7 years ago showing my car parked exactly where that fence now stood. Receipts from when I poured gravel there. Hell, I even had videos of me and Florence chatting while I mowed that very strip. But it didn't matter. Filing it forced the issue into court. That meant I wasn't just fighting a permit now. I was fighting for ownership of my land. I called my lawyer in a panic. She wasn't surprised. "This is a pressure move," she said. "They're hoping you'll back down or settle." I told her I wasn't backing down. The next day, something changed with Florence. She hadn't been home since her fall. But that morning, I saw an ambulance parked outside. 2 EMTs helped her slowly up the porch steps. She looked pale.
Weak.
She didn't even look at me. That night, a hospice nurse arrived. I didn't feel angry. I felt something worse, confused, grieving something I didn't understand. I'd spent 7 years helping this woman, and she'd never once told me the truth. Never once explained why it flipped. Then, 2 days before the hearing, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside was a photo. It was Florence, probably taken in the 90s, standing next to a younger Donnie. In the photo, they were standing in front of a chain-link fence, the same one that used to stand where my driveway is now. On the back, in blue ink, it was never ours. He just always wanted it to be.
No signature.
Just that. I showed it to my lawyer. She looked stunned.
"Someone wants you to win," she said.
That night, I watched from my window as Donnie loaded a trailer in the dark. He was taking things from Florence's garage. Boxes, old furniture. But he wasn't careful. He moved like someone who knew time was running out. I haven't seen him since. The hearing is tomorrow morning. And I don't know what's going to happen. The hearing didn't solve everything. The city ordered the fence removed, said the permit was issued on bad information. But the title dispute's still ongoing. Florence passed away 3 days later. I watched the hospice van pull away from behind my blinds. No funeral, no cars. Just Donnie showing up one last time to grab what was left and lock the door behind him. Sometimes I wonder if she knew what he was doing, or if she was just too tired to stop him. The fence is gone now, but the dirt's still dead where it stood. I drive over it every day, and every time, I still look over at her porch out of habit. She used to call me her angel. Now, some mornings I walk past that window and think, I should have asked her why. Just once. I should have asked her why she let it happen. But I didn't. And now I never will. And the part that gets me, what really sticks, is knowing I wasn't just angry. I was hurt. Because when it came down to it, I thought we were something more than neighbors. Turns out I was the only one who thought that.